All right, so today we're going to be talking about rotary sanders and what they're good for and how they work. And I will be using the DeWalt DWE6401DS as the rotary sander that I'm using for this video. However, other brands, of course, do make their own rotary sanders. And this isn't so much about a model of sander or a brand, but how these kinds of sanders work. And here you can see some of the materials that we'll use it on today and kind of talk about how it works and what to expect from it and where it really shines and also where it doesn't shine so well. So once again, a rotary sander, the way it works is that it actually spins in a rotational orientation only. So that's going to be in a circular rotation, typically in clockwise orientation. And this one, like many of them, is actually speed variable or variable speed, so you can adjust the RPMs, and the RPMs can vary from, multiple different brands as to how low they go or how high they go. And some people tend to want to compare these with like an angle grinder, but angle grinders and rotary sanders, purpose-built rotary sanders, are different, even though they do similar things. As you can see here, I have actually 80 grit. Everything I'm going to do in this video is with 80 grit just because it's an easy way to show a dramatic and dynamic difference quickly. But you can use rotary sanders with any grit of sandpaper on them. And depending on the material you're sanding, you might want to use different grits of sandpaper. And as you can see there, this is just a rough sawn 2x4. It's pine. That rotary sander with the 80 grit, cut that down pretty quick. And then I'm going to do it here again. And that was flattening. One of the great things about these rotary sanders is because of the way that they're designed, they do allow and help with the efforts of making things relatively flat pretty easily. With just hand sanding. Now, it's not going to be perfect because remember, like most things, wherever there's a knot in wood or whatever, that's going to be a denser area and a harder area to sand. And you're going to find that it doesn't sand that down as much as the softer areas around it. So you have to be careful because you can still get some bumps and valleys and things. With what I was doing there, I actually took the 2x4 and I cut down both edges, and I actually rounded the edge of that 2x4 over, and I'll show you that here shortly. It's actually like a radius on that, and that was pretty quick. The sandpaper did tear. That's one of the problems with the rotary sanders. With sandpaper, if you're using the adhesive style, they can heat up pretty quickly because of the way that the pad rotates. They do heat up quite aggressively, and the glue can get really stuck to the pad. And if you're using the hook and loop, then at times, because of the rotational friction, especially on super aggressive or very coarse materials that you're sanding, they can like wrinkle up on you or wear off. And these hook and loop pads do tend to wear out faster on rotary sanders than like orbital sanders, for instance. And now I've taken this cedar 4x4, and you can see I'm really like beveling this edge with this sander. So this is one of the things where these sanders really shine. They cut very quickly, and they are pretty aggressive in comparison to like the typical orbital sander. So I took that corner down at a bevel, about an inch in thickness at the crosscut side, and tapered it upward. And it, within that less than a minute, we had that beveled down. Now, once again, dug our cedar post, so that was pretty, quick and aggressive, but it definitely cut very, very quickly. So these rotary sanders are great for removing lots of material or cutting very quickly. The problem with them can be is that because they rotate in a circular motion and not a random orbit motion, which is kind of like curly cues. They also have a lot of contact that is crossing the grain perpendicular in its form, and they can leave swirls that are pretty deep. So they are usually not a great finish tool for wood. They are usually and most commonly used as a shaping and leveling tool and a smoothing tool. Then the orbital sander would be used to like finalize the sanding, make it a much more consistent texture, get rid of swirls, get rid of the cutting lines and things. And I just used this 80 grit on that steel pipe there, that square tube, and got all the rust off of it and scale off of it down to bare metal within a few seconds. And that was a 2-inch piece of pipe or tubing. So it definitely has its benefit. Now, the square tubing has a radius corner on it, and that makes it easier on the sandpaper. But like this is a blade off of an extreme duty brush cutter, and the edges are a little sharper in their cut. This is also AR 500 steel, which is a very abrasive resistant, high nickel content steel, and it doesn't sand nearly as easily. And because it was plasma cut, the edges are definitely sharper, and they will catch this sandpaper and tear it or wrinkle it, and then you have to adjust it or replace it. This pad that I have on here is kind of old. It is definitely wearing out, and so I have to I watch it because the paper doesn't, the sanding mesh, this is Diablo, I said 80 earlier, I think this is actually 60 grit, but the sanding mesh doesn't adhere to the hook and loop pad as well as it used to because it is getting worn out. Now with this one, I did buy this one at Home Depot, this DeWalt rotary sander, and they actually sell a replacement pad for I think $20 or something, so you can replace it. I've already replaced it once. I've had this rotary sander for about 3 years, and so you can see the sanding mesh just got cut there from the corner grabbing it on this metal. And so the rotary sanders, where they shine specifically is in aggressive sanding and aggressive removal of material. As you can see, the scale and rust came off of that piece of AR 500, and then the rust and scale on that 2-inch pipe or square tube came off. Really, it's tubing, not pipe. It's 2x2, and then of course those radiuses on that 2x4, as you can see there, smooth down really quickly with that, and then that corner bevel on that 4x4, I mean, that's quite an aggressive bevel that I did within a few seconds. So once again, great for removing and shaping materials, but for finish sanding, not so great. If you buy certain kinds of pads, they can be great for polishing steel and hard materials like that as well. Stainless, mild steel, high nickel steel, that kind of stuff. And also you can polish and sand plastics and shape plastics with these, that kind of stuff. So yeah,